Hey, and welcome to the Joie Miller Podcast. I'm so excited that you're joining me today. I'm Pastor Joie Miller from Champion Christian Center, and today we're going to be talking about parenting. Yes, a topic that I love to dive into because we have 5 children. We have 2 adult children right now. One is married and he is going to be a dad, but just raising kids in general. And so it's a topic that we don't talk about a lot, but we really probably should talk about more because we have a lot of experience in doing it. Not that we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Just grab up one of my kids and ask them a few questions and they'll tell you I am not perfect, but I am more than willing to share with you some tips that I have learned along the way. And so today I want to talk to you about parenting from the middle. Parenting from the middle. Our youngest child is 12, and then we have a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old, a soon-to-be 20-year-old, and then a 22-year-old. And nobody tells you that parenting changes. You are raising this baby, you have the toddler thing down, you go into the elementary school years, and then all of a sudden something shifts in the middle. And not only are you not able to correct them maybe the way that you used to correct them in the forms of, spanking them or whatever that was, taking something away from them, on that level, but everything kind of changes. And nobody tells you that the winds of parenting change every now and again. So I want to talk to you about discipline and creating a good relationship with your child through those years of change, through the difficult years, in a way that it doesn't have to be bad. For years, people would tell me, oh, parenting teenagers is just horrible, or you just wait until they become teenagers. They are going to break your heart. And I thought, I don't want that to be my narrative. That's not my story. I'm going to enjoy and embrace parenting in every season that I'm in, from newborn to toddler to adolescent to whatever that looks like. I want to enjoy them, and I want to live a life without any regrets when it comes to my children. So I wanted to really lean into that. And when I look at the Bible, I look at biblical examples and all of these amazing men of God that I have seen in the Bible. They let their children become their Achilles heel, their weakness in a lot of ways. I think about David, King David in the Bible, and all of the amazing things that he did, but all of the heartache that he experienced when it came to his children, because he loved them so much that he wasn't willing to do the hard things sometimes to put them in the right direction. Or I think about Eli in 1 Samuel 2. I think about the prophet and how he really failed his children, how the priest Eli, he let his children do things that he knew was wrong. In fact, the Bible says that they became wicked because he wasn't willing to establish boundaries with his adult children. And, this is a mistake, if we're not careful, we can make as the winds change in those middle school and high school years, where if we're not willing to have the difficult conversations and put down the boundaries, that we can see them go their own way. And so I want to talk to you about establishing discipline through those years in a way that you can still have and maintain a good relationship to them and still do right by them and by the Lord. And, the mistake and common misconception that we have a lot of times as our kids get older is that we can actually let off of the reins a little bit, that we can back up in our parenting, that it's been so strenuous and it's been so demanding that by the time they're in middle school, we don't have to do as much. And that's just simply not true. Your middle schooler, your preteen, your teen, your adult child needs you now more than ever in their life. Your role just looks a little bit different. And so we're going to talk about the shift or the pivot that has to take place in parenting through those years. And so I want to give you some tips that have helped me. Like I said, not that I'm perfect, but I value and adore my children. And there's nothing that I would want more than to get at the end of my life and have no regrets on how I raised them. And that doesn't mean I get it right all the time, but it means that I do my very best through setting boundaries and expectations, even through these years. So let's talk about this for a second. Parenting through changes, pivoting as a parent from childhood to the teenage years. What do you do when this sweet little child all of a sudden has a mind of their own, has a friend group that's more important than you are, that has idealisms that are coming in from the world now. They're developing their own opinions, that just what you say doesn't just go because you said it. They start to question you a little bit and push back on boundaries. And so we're going to talk about what this looks like, especially in raising children within a Christian perspective. So number one is this, that when you're parenting in this pivotal time, that we have to establish clear expectations with our child. Clear expectations, both good expectations and for when they don't do things right, the expectations that we have for them and boundaries that we have for them. So let's talk about the good expectations first. Establishing expectations, I say it all the time, to be clear is to be kind when it comes with our relationships. So, the clearer that I am with my middle schooler and teen, the better. If I'm just assuming that they know what's expected of them, I'm setting them up for a failure, and I'm setting myself up for an argument with them. I'm positioning myself now that I'm always having to be in the place of disciplinarian, or the person that's always yelling at them, or the person that is only talking to them when I'm correcting them. So we have to set up expectations on what's important to us, first of all, what our family values are. Hopefully by the time that they are at this age, they understand a little bit of what the values are. But you might have to come in and reinforce those values, especially now that they have friends. If they go to school, Christian or public, or maybe they're homeschooled and they're just around other people, they have a little bit more of a leash on them, a little more freedom. So they're having different ideas come into their mind. Different values from different families are seeping in. And so this isn't a time to just be like, well, whatever you believe, you believe. Like, just let TikTok raise you. I don't know. No, this is a time to come in and reaffirm the values. And, like I said before, at this point in parenting, you can be tired and you can think, well, I've done my job. No, when you see something that is coming into your culture as your home that's against the value system that you believe, address it head on. So, that's the way your friend believes, and that is fine for their family. But as for this house, we believe X, Y, Z, or that might be their standard. But as for our standard, this is what we believe, and reaffirming those values so they know the expectations are clear. We have a slew of children in our home during the weekend. We've always wanted to be a place where the kids could bring their friends. And so it's very rare that we won't give up a Friday or a Saturday to allowing our house to be infiltrated by teenagers. And so with that comes all sorts of things. And I'll never forget having a conversation with my son when I heard one of his friends using a swear word. And I called him up and I said, look, this isn't acceptable in this house. You know that we don't swear. And in fact, it concerns me that your friend swears. And I don't know that this is, a great influence in your life. And so, can you please tell him that in this house, we don't use swear words. And so my son went down and he told him, and not only that, he went on to tell him, I don't know that my mother thinks that you're a good influence in my life. And I don't know that I'm going to be allowed to hang out with you anymore. So he just told him the whole shebang. But what was I doing? I was reestablishing a value that while we want everyone to come and have fun, this is our culture. And so I'm going to protect this culture. And so the next morning, I was making everyone breakfast, and this young man approached me, and he said, Mrs. Miller, I am so sorry that I used that word. I don't often swear, and I just got really frustrated, and will you please forgive me? And so I said, of course, that's you're an amazing young man, and I wouldn't assume that you would normally speak like that. And so, but I was establishing a value within our home and I was putting up a boundary line that when those teens come into my home, they know they can't bring their stuff into my home. It was an expectation now that my kids know that if they bring their friends to our house, if they have friends that swear, it's maybe not a good alignment. If they bring them into our home and they swear, it's going to be an even worse alignment. So they're not going to be surprised when I tell them that they can't hang out with that friend or when they can't bring that friend into their home. So let them know what the values are. Let them know the expectation of responsibilities that you have. If you're constantly frustrated with your teen or middle schooler because they're not doing the chores, do they know that they have a rhythm? Every Wednesday you take out the trash. Create systems to help them win. We're not fighting against them. As a mother, I'm not wanting them to fail so that I can punish them. I actually want them to win. So whether it's a whiteboard, whether it's a calendar, a system that you have on your phones that's all synced up, whether it's something that you have inside of your cabinet, let them know what their expectations and responsibilities are. That comes to housework, that comes to grades. Let them know what the household expectation is for academics in your house. If it's always a conflict, why are you getting C's? Why aren't you getting your homework done? They need to know that there is an expectation that you want to help them meet. And that means that they should know that if I'm struggling in school, your expectation is for me to come to you and ask you for help as a parent, to reach out to my teacher, to help me get tutoring, whatever that is. So there is an expectation with an end in mind, an expectation to have open communication. I want my children to know that what they can expect from me is to talk about anything and for me not to get mad at them, not to have a rise at them where they know if they say something to mom, I'm not going to get angry and it's not going to be a blow up or an argument, that it's an open space for communication. And there's been times where I have had to literally on the inside suppress every emotion and every facial expression that I wanted to have in that moment. But I wanted them to be able to expect to have that communication and that openness with me, that they can come to me about anything. So what are you communicating to your child that the expectation is? That they can come to you, but when they come to you, it's like World War III, or they can come to you and you can figure it out together, even if afterwards you have to, hit your knees extra hard or take it to Jesus. I want them to be my first line. I want their first line of communication to me. I expect them to come to me first. I don't want to hear it from somebody else. I want them to come to me. So establish those expectations through the middle school and the teenage years that you can talk about anything. Ask them questions, engage with them, let them know you want to talk to them. It's not okay that they just come home and go to their room or go up and play video games or talk to their friends. I mean, it's okay that they do that, but I want to have that conversation with them first. How was your day? Give me one highlight from the day, one thing that you wish you could do over from today. What's the one thing you're looking forward to? And so starting those conversations with them so they know you care about them. How was your friend group today? Anything funny happen at school today with your friends? And so really opening up that dialogue with them. All right, number 2 is this: set clear and firm boundaries with consequences. So those expectations have to have consequences attached to them. This is where we see all of those amazing men of God in the Bible. They let it fall because they love their child so much that they wanted the affirmation from their children more than they were willing to set boundaries with follow through. Through the middle school and high school years, your relationship with your child changes in the aspect of not only are you're their parent, but you have this almost friendship camaraderie that develops between the two of you. And so you have to be careful, though, that you don't cross the line to where your friendship takes you out of a place of discipline in their life, that you're always winking at things, that you've established these boundaries, but now you're saying, oh, really, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal if you got an F or a D, or it's not that big of a deal if you were out past curfew or you were watching something you shouldn't. Just don't do it next time. No, you want to be establishing and following through with the boundaries that you have set and the consequences of those boundaries. And that's easy. That's harder when they're in this middle age than it was when they were little. They just did what you told them to do. There was no attitude usually with it. There can be attitudes. There can be lashback. Remember, your child is going through lots of changes. They're not stable emotionally when it comes to their hormones, even at this stage. So you have to remain consistent and calm, and even in the follow through. So setting those boundaries, following through, making sure that they're realistic consequences. You're going to take their phone. Well, are you angry and say, give me your phone for a year? You're not going to be able to follow through with that. Give me your phone for a month or whatever. Make sure the punishment fits the crime and you're able to follow through with it. Understand that they know what they did wrong and why they're being punished in that way for it. Make sure that your boundaries aren't, they know that the boundaries aren't just for you punishing them, but also protecting them. That when you tell them that they can't engage in this area of social media, or they can't post things like this, help them to understand it's not just because you're a killjoy that wants to take all of their fun, but because boundaries protect us. Think about Adam and Eve in the garden. God wasn't telling Adam and Eve not to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil because he wanted to hurt them. He wanted to protect them. And so we see that boundaries are good and there for protection in our lives. All right, number 3 is start with a conversation. When you're talking to them, don't be afraid to have the difficult conversations. My parents did not like to have difficult conversations, so a lot went unsaid in my house, and it wasn't for my benefit. And so have that conversation with your child. Sit down, talk about sex, talk about relationships, talk about things that maybe you don't want to talk about as a parent, things that you might shy away from. Have the difficult conversations with them. When you're having conversations, maybe in a moment of discipline, get all of the information. Get all of the information that you can collect. Don't discipline from just knowing one side of the story. Hear their side of the story. Hear the teacher's side of the story. Hear the friend's side of the story. Whatever it looks like, collect all of your information before you go into the conversation. Don't assume or accuse them. They will be defensive. They'll shut off immediately if you go into the conversation assuming and accusing. They want to hear that you're open to understand them. They're still trying to figure life out. They don't even understand themselves. So they want to know that you're there to help understand them, not to assume and accuse them. Seek to understand. You might say, help me understand why you did this. Help me understand why you made that decision. Ask them lots of questions. And once again, watch your tone and body language. Don't blow up. Don't let your face turn 5 shades of red. Stay calm and collected as you're having those conversations. Number 4, communicate love and affirmation. This is so, so important. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that comes to your children too. If the only time you're ever engaging in any sort of communication with them is when they're in trouble, they're going to shut you off immediately. This is the age where you need to leverage your influence through relationship to them. When it comes to teenagers, they spell love Time, time that you invest into them. Like I said before, as they get older, it's easy to back off because they can take care of themselves. They can make themselves cereal if they're hungry. They can, they can kind of guide themselves through some different scenarios, but you have to make sure that you're investing time in them, not because you have to, but because you still want to. You want to get to know them. You want to enjoy them. You want to laugh with them. And so making that investment so that you can leverage that relationship when you need to discipline them or have difficult conversations, that they know that mom has cared about me every day after school, having these conversations. So today's conversation is just a little bit different. She loves me. She invests time into me. And so making sure that you're affirming that preteen and that teen, even in times that they might not be the most lovable, or they might not, be the most fun to be around. Sometimes they might irritate the heck out of you, and you might want to just but hold your tongue. They don't need that right now. They need love and affirmation from you, affirming who they are, even when they make mistakes, even when they make a dumb decision. Like I said before, their hormones are all over the place. They're trying to figure life out. So when they make a dumb mistake, don't crucify them for it. Talk them through it. Affirm them through it. Let's talk about why you made that decision. Let's talk about who you are in Christ. That's not who you are. Don't label them. Don't call them dumb, stupid, a troublemaker, a hellion. Don't label them in that way. Speak and affirm who they are in Christ. You are a woman of God. God has called you to so much greater. You are a man of God and integrity. We don't do those things. God has so much greater for you. So speaking that love and affirmation into them at the end of the conversation, no matter how it goes, ending it with a big hug. I love you. I believe in you. I'm your greatest cheerleader. I'm cheering you on to every great thing that God has for your life. Even if they don't respond, they need to hear it. So really learning to have these conversations, to navigate through these pivotal times, going from childhood to middle schooler to teenage to adult years. Listen, don't stop talking. Don't stop setting boundaries. Don't stop setting expectations. You are a parent for life. So raise up those kids in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. Stick to what God's word says. Stick to love, stick to affirmation, stick to discipline, and you won't go wrong. Well, until next time, I'll talk to you on the Joie Miller Podcast.